Hi friends and new friends out there in Dash Nation. I'm Tao of Satoshi and you're watching a very special episode of Cash Alternative TV. As far as proposal owners go, the decreased price in Dash can lead to increased tensions and competition for budget space. How we handle this adversity says a lot about us, however, and we can choose to approach this in a negative or a positive way. All three of the people in this episode are both current proposal owners and masternode owners. This episode will feature two parts. In the first part, Drako Kerdemelidis, representing Kuvacash, and Scott Farnsworth, representing Dash Aerosports and FanDuel, will give you info about their proposals in a factual way. In the second half, the two gentlemen will have a chance to freely converse as masternode owners. We will discuss the current level of professionalism in the DAO, what are we doing right, what are we doing wrong, and steps we should take to fix it. Before we start, I would like to take a quick second to tell you that the opinions featured in this episode may not reflect the opinions of Cash Alternative TV or its parent, the Dash Nation Dash funded organization. This will simply be a forum for the two men to speak their views. I would also like to ask any masternode owners out there to support the Dash Nation Dash funded organization contract renewal. The link will be displayed below. We have encouraged and provided positive, respectful, and friendly community forums since 2016, and we would simply enjoy the chance to continue our work and contribute our skills to Dash. Thank you. Without further ado, let's begin the interview with Drako and Scott. This may be a long show, so settle in. For those who may want to skip to the second part, the link will be provided below. Please enjoy. Welcome to the show, Scott and Drako.
Well, thanks for having us. Appreciate it. It's good to be here.
Thanks for having us.
No problem.
Thanks for having us on the show.
I want to appreciate you guys being here. I think that today's conversation is a very valuable one to have. All three of us have proposals that are in front of the DAO right now. And I think it's a good opportunity for us to talk about things that are happening as well. So I'm going to begin with you, Scott. Why don't you give us a little bit of actually, why don't you introduce yourselves first for the people that don't know who you are? Yeah, so I'll start with Scott. Who are you and what project do you represent?
Okay, well, I actually represent, I think, more than one project. So I'm Scott Farnsworth. I'm also known as the Dash Racer. I'm an air show and low-level pylon racer in Dash Force One. We were successful in being funded with a mass marketing and branding proposal about a year and a half ago. And even though we're currently not funded, we continue in that with our other partners, but yet we remain a title sponsor with Dash. One, because I'm heavily invested in Dash and I want to see it successful. Therefore, my greedy intentions are aligned with the network is to promote Dash as much as possible. We are in this 30-day period, we're representing Dash in front of somewhere between 280, 300,000 spectators in a 30-day period, as well as that's the live spectators at our shows, as well as at least 3 media events per event, which averages each of media exposure 70,000 viewers.
Okay, so, great. Thanks for that introduction.
Yeah, so that's the Dash Aerosports side. Well, you know, we were just answering today about putting stickers on airplanes, and that's where I kind of had to fire back with it. Yeah,
and you'll definitely have an opportunity
on
to
that.
do so.
We literally did put stickers on an airplane. We did do that. You got me on that. But we also work with business development throughout the aviation industry, which has proven to be an early adopter of all technologies, because in aviation, when you become an early adopter of technology, and we do have projects that we've discussed with other people that can integrate into the aviation industry, but we also do the mass marketing and branding, from interviews to wallet downloads, where you can fly with me in a virtual reality experience after you download the Dash wallet. So you ride with me for free after you actually download the Dash Core wallet on your cell phone. Okay. So that's one project. The next project is Demo, which stands for Dash Escrow Managed Operations, and that's where we run our FanDuel proposal, as well as 2 other proposals, well, not proposals yet, 2 other pending projects that we're working on. So right now we have Dash Aerosports Demo with 1 current active project and 2 pending projects to come.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to go to Drako. I don't know if I see his mic might not be on. Can you guys hear me over there?
Yeah, we can hear you. I'm just going to pop James in as well.
Okay.
Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, you guys are perfect. I just want to get a quick introduction for now from you guys. Who are you gentlemen, and what project do you represent?
Sure.
I'm James Saruchera. I'm CEO of Kuvacash.
And I'm Max Yoga Drako, which I think probably needs not too much introduction. I'm the Director of Strategy and Propositions for Kuvacash, and I also deal with what we're considering as well as investor relations as far as the MNOs voting on our proposal go.
Okay, so James, can you go a little bit further about what your role is and what exactly you do for Kuvacash? Because a lot of people don't know you as well as they know Drako.
Yeah, Draco's pretty active on the forums. A lot of what I'm focused on is actually building our team and reaching out to the market itself. So as you well know, we're basically launching a pilot in Zimbabwe, where we're actually looking at introducing Dash as a mechanism of payment. It's the underlying core of the Kuvacash application that we've been building over the last, I guess, year or so. And my focus is essentially overseeing our product, our internal team in terms of our human resources, the people that are going out there engaging people at the grassroots level, people that are talking to merchants to say, hey, these are the benefits of using Dash. Also looking at our product and understanding what are the things that the market needs and what are the things that we need to actually build into our product.
Okay, so you gentlemen know, I'll explain to the viewers, this show is going to have two parts. The first part is going to be simply explaining your projects. What have you been up to? What are you doing now? And what are your future plans? And the second half will be a no holds barred discussion about how you feel the DAO is doing in regards to professionalism. What we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, and what we need to do to fix it. For any viewers that are out there that may want to skip right to the fireworks, they can. The link will be descriptive below. But for now, we're just going to start with the projects themselves, but no opinions sprinkled in, just purely facts about the projects. So I'm going to begin with Scott. What have you been up to since the last time you were on the show?
We've actually, since the last time I was on the show, we participated on the Dash Aerosports side in the Reno National Air Races, where we were significantly faster this year, but the entire course went faster. So we are 4th out of 16 and the fastest motorsport on the planet, powered by Dash, the fastest payment system on the planet. After that, we've attended now, come November 4th will be our 4th air show following the Reno National Air Races. Let me preface that we are obviously exposed to NBC Sports through the National Air Races, which has 480,000 viewers per episode. Last year, I negotiated exposure as well as additional advertising through NBC Sports, which started out with 3 episodes. And then as the budget went up, I believe they went with a total of 11 episodes for the additional advertising for Dash. And we're following through with those arrangements should the cryptocurrency market rally back to previous levels. We want to make sure that we're playing for where the ball is going, not for where the ball is currently. So we're putting things in place for 2018 Reno National Air Races television exposure to have the same exposure. Dash has made quite the splash in that community because the semblance of the fastest payment system on the planet inside the fastest sport on the planet. So they are much more pilot profile, much more exposure for the Dash branding during the episodes as well.
Okay. So yeah, I've actually visited you down at the Sun and Fun Air Show, so I see what you're all about. But you've got some fancy new branding on your stuff now. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, it's kind of painful a little bit because our proposal, and you shouldn't be negative. That's like the first thing to not do in marketing. But I think I'd rather be honest than just try and be hospitable to what's going on. For our team, we over-delivered on everything by far. We just did our last count. We had promised about 2.2 million spectators. We're over 3 million spectators, not including the NBC Sports coverage. when we had overages in our budget, we applied that to television advertising in the form of banner ads, Dash digital cash banner ads. There's just a lot of stuff that we did. As cryptocurrency started to fall, we were put in a position where Dash had rebranded. In our original budget, we had obviously budgeted for the bus, the trailer, the jet, everything, as well as over $10,000 in, you know, Dash branded T-shirts. And as the budget fell, we kind of got put in a point where we were trying to react to the new branding. We did the designs, which obviously takes time to make them as amazing as they turned out. And just the way that the treasury cycle went, we had to act to take advantage of the NBC sports coverage that would be happening at the national air races. We literally went to an air show in Oregon with the current branding, or sorry, with the previous branding, dropped off our bus, flew back to Florida, and a week later, they were able to get our equipment completely turned around to the new branding, so that we have the 480,000 views per episode for both the jet as well as the pilot profile. I'm in front of the branding bus, the 250,000 spectators there. You know, people might not know this, but Drako came out to review a potential project with Dash Aerosports. We had met in Ireland, discussed many topics. And I don't have a problem saying this again, is Kuvacash is a great project, but I met Drako's entire team in Ireland, not just him, his entire team. And he's put together a team that, besides outside Kuvacash as a project, I believe that they're the people that I would invest in as an entrepreneur. When I find a team like that, I want to do business with them. So I invited him to Reno to review some different payment processing and how we can integrate some different projects in the aviation environment. He showed up and we had a great couple days together. So, you know, everybody that was out there saw the Dash branding. It was right in front of the grandstands. And now we're in a position where you have a bus that travels from coast to coast, from Oregon to Florida to New York. We were planning on being at the Bitcoin conference just like we were last time, and have this huge billboard, this absolutely amazing billboard with for a marketer, when you have something like the virtual reality experience where somebody's literally tactilely interacting with your brand and your product, it's perfect. The retail of that situation would have been probably $35,000 to $40,000. I used my previous contacts in the wrap business to bring that down, almost actually more than half of that. And it's just a matter of the value added for what we're presenting to the network. I feel is overly generous on our part, but it doesn't look like it's fulfilling. So we're starting to pivot and figure out how to survive as a team to move on. As I've mentioned on Discord, we have contractual obligations to different events that I'm having to fund out of my own pocket so that we don't set a bad Scott Farnsworth Aerosports, tone in the industry. Because if I say I'm going to be at a show and I don't show up at that show, it's not just this year, it's for the next decade that I won't be showing up at that air show again.
Yeah, you're definitely a man of your word. And I was going to ask you that question with the fall of Dash, if you put any personal funds into it to see your results through, and you already answered my question. So that's
yeah. I mean, it's the way that we've always done business. And like I said, we have a track record now of over a year and a half. We do not. One of my big things in the past, especially like with the FanDuel project, is I do not attempt to approach the network with wishes and what we'd like to make happen. And if you give us money, we'll do this. We go with the function of, this is what we're going to do. We're going to benefit the network. And we've proven to you in the past that we don't just meet what we say we're going to do. We always exceed it.
Okay. So you're
that they allow us to do that again.
Let me say something about that as well, Tal, because obviously we went to Reno after Scott just basically dropped and came to Ireland. We had a couple of conversations on the phone. He's like, look, I'm going to come meet your team, see what you guys are about. We talked it all the way until we actually got ourselves locked out of the exhibition hall.
And we had to sneak in to get our bags.
Yeah, so we vibed out really good, and really found like we have a lot of alignment in how we think about business and what we can bring into the DAO as well. How we can help with that, and I think we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. But let me just say, I met Scott, his entire family, his kids, his partner, and everyone who's helping him out. Cody, the guys, just an incredible team. And they're I'm telling you, they're blue with Dash. Every single last one of them. They know exactly what they're pushing. It's not just like about being there and like having a sticker on and a sponsorship. It's literally they're just pumping as much as information and really the benefit, everything they can towards Dash, getting the exposure there. We flung like a whole pile of T-shirts into the crowd. Everyone in those air shows knows what Dash is and what it's about, and they see it as an exciting new thing, which potentially is going to make the future of money happen. And he's there. I'm going to say that he's there quite early on with his message. It's up to us to really start to also push some of those use cases through as well. But I'm really I'm just going to say the DAO is very lucky to have a person of the caliber of Scott, and not only that, but his message is about fastest payment system on earth. It's just so on brand. You have to be there to see how aligned it is with what we're doing and what we're trying to achieve with Dash Digital Cash.
Yeah, well said, Drako. I perfectly agree with you on that. I've met Scott as well, and the team there is doing a brilliant job.
What's funny is everybody that's come to our event and seen us has been a huge fan. The ones that are detractors from our event have never been there. And they sit there and they criticize and critique, and the term, I'm exhausted. It's Monday. I've been flying, media, interacting with the spectators. I wake up at the sunrise because that's when we brief. If you don't brief, you don't fly. So for the pilots, we have to brief at sunrise because everybody starts flying once the sun comes up. But I'm up, interacting with spectators, merchants until way late in the night. So Monday is right now. It's my day off, but I think this is an important conversation. We are working nonstop. Yes, we did put stickers on an airplane, but that is just scratching the surface. We are absolutely focused on adoption. And that's also why I support Kuvacash. I see what they're trying to do in a situation, in an area where this is the use case. And as Drako and I have talked about, grassroots is great. He and I both align that grassroots is great, but we need mass adoption, and we need projects that will get funded for the mass adoption. I mean, we've proven that we will work nonstop to execute. I'm absolutely tired of hearing how somebody wants to make something happen when you have individuals that all they do is focus on executing and living up not only to what they said they're going to do, but always exceed what they said they were going to do.
Okay, so Scott, you're a keen racer, but you also have a keen business mind, and I'm happy to have you as part of the DAO. Dash Aerosports is not simply about flying. You're also actively trying to engage in business development. To that end, you're putting your money where your mouth is with the addition of FanDuel. As we all know, Dash is now the official cryptocurrency of FanDuel. So can you actually expand a little bit on what happened to make that happen and what your plans are in the future?
Well, it took about 5 to 6 months before anybody ever actually knew about it. We were keeping Dash Force News abreast of the situation throughout the whole process. I think about 3 or 4 times they asked me if they could report on it, but it would take away from my negotiating capital. And for those of you, I got to remember, some people, even somebody that's younger in high school, might be into Dash right now. Negotiating capital is when two parties come together and they're going to negotiate. There's a certain give and take on both sides. And if we were already promoting how excited we were to be involved with FanDuel, it would reduce my ability to get a better price for Dash in the boardroom at the table. So I refused to allow them to publish anything, but they can verify that it was a 5 to 6 month project before we ever came across the network. We flew to New York. We bought our own hotel rooms. We paid for our own airfare. We did everything ourselves before we approached the network. And currently, I'll give you last month's figures. We've disclosed this to Dash Core Group. We do We are going back and forth with Omar and Bradley, keeping them abreast of the business relationship that we have there. They've been very accommodating, and they've been very supportive too. Last month, we had 2,000 contestants shy of 1 million. That's 2,000 shy of 1 million contestants, all fighting to win Dash in the FanDuel Cryptocurrency Cup. So 1 million contestants not only were exposed to the impression and the marketing of Dash, but they were also sent links to go to dash.org. We have all those figures that we've disclosed to Dash Core as well. And the contestants that were interacting with the Dash brand and actually fighting in a contest to win this value prize that is Dash was just short of 1 million contestants. That was last month. This month, I can just about guarantee that we're going to exceed that, but we won't have numbers on that for another 8 days.
Okay, so there's some concern in the community that I've seen that people don't have the opportunity to deposit Dash, store Dash, and withdraw Dash. Do you have any kind of timeline on when something like that would be possible, like a full Dash experience?
100%. I'll expand on that. That was discussed on Discord as well. We are going to make deposits available in the term of this first project, or else I'll fail at my project, and we have yet to do that. So I do not expect to fail at the deposit level. As we've discussed before, once you can withdraw, so can hackers. So we're going to make sure that we protect the user experience as well as our valued partner, which is FanDuel. We're going to protect their brand, Dash's brand, and our users, and make sure that the withdrawal is done not quickly but correctly.
Okay. Can I say something just quickly about that as well? Just an understanding. Like, I think also we've got people who are in the DAO and they sort of see this thing from a distance, and they're like, oh, well, can't you negotiate one thing or another? To understand like how difficult it is to get into a boardroom to have a discussion about a subject like that. It's like it can take months of work just to get that hook in to have that conversation. And then when you're having that conversation, it has to be appropriate, and it can't be a naive conversation. Like, you have to understand that they have, they've got a huge amount of risks that they manage, anything from, their own brand and losing, obviously they don't want to lose their clients' money. And also they're wanting to do things that are innovative, but in any large organization, pushing through innovation, you have to pilot it very carefully, go slowly, make sure all the stakeholders get aligned, make sure that the risks are well understood, make sure that, they put measures in place so that customers are protected, and that there's processes in case there are errors that customers make that come back, they have to manage. So this can take months and months. So, it may be, it takes a year to get in anything to do anything with FanDuel, but it's such a huge opportunity. And the fact is that Scott's got traction in there himself and is in the boardroom and pitching that it's worth giving it the support that we can and having some patience. That's what I want to say on the matter, because we talked about how hard those negotiations are, and the same thing with us. We can't reveal all of our cards either, because we're doing a lot of negotiations with partners, and we've got to be coming from a position of strength. And if you just put all your cards out publicly, then the other side is like, hey, these guys want this real bad, and then you lose your strength. So I think that's something we can talk about a little bit later as well. But I'd like to back up what Scott's saying. It's a process, and really it's about the DAO just tracking that progress, trusting that Scott's doing the right thing, trusting that he actually has gotten himself into the boardroom and he knows how to get that deal closed, no matter how long it takes. It might take 6 months, it might take a year, but
I appreciate that, Drako. I just want to say that you do not have to trust me. We have had everything verified by Dash Watch, as well as Bradley and Omar are both they're both in contact with us. And not only one of that, forgive me, I don't know the chief financial officer of Dash Core, but he's already been contacted by a micropayments bank through our contact of FanDuel. Our FanDuel relationship is already having network effect over at Dash Core, where I believe they're going to meet together at Money 2020. I was invited to it, but to be honest with you, I just can't we're absolutely flooded with work right now with demo. FanDuel and Dash Core is probably the right party to talk to regarding Dash and micropayments for an actual branch bank, or not branch, but title bank.
So you mentioned Bradley Zastro. He's the Director of Business Development for Dash Core. Glenn Austin is the Director of Finance. Who is Omar? Who is Omar?
Omar is the U.S. Business Dev. U.S. He's out of Texas, and we talked to Omar quite a bit, and Bradley comes in kind of like you guys have all met Cody. Cody really handles my day-to-day situation and the little stuff, and then he brings me in for the conversations and the decisions that need the stamp of approval, I'd say. But Omar has been phenomenally supportive of us. We really appreciate him, and he's been great to go back and forth with Bradley.
Okay, so Scott, we're going to keep you around for the second half. Thanks for describing your proposal and your future plans. Do you have anything to say to the Masternode networks, any Masternode operators who might be watching this in regards to your proposal that's currently up for voting?
Yeah, I talk about Dash Aerosports. Obviously, that's a much bigger proposal. And I think that if any of our Masternodes wants to chime in the comments, if you'll have comments on this, I think anybody that's come to our event has seen that Dash has literally become one of, if not the largest brand at these aviation events. We're literally kind of taking over with the way that my team does the work. We're the biggest thing on the field. We're over the top. We've got the fast jet. We've got the virtual reality experience. The current proposal is really, to use a Latin term, disminimis. It's really just 37 Dash just to cover at this point, because we missed one of the proposals, less than the cost. And we're doing everything else because we're invested in Dash and trying to make it happen. So we ask that they help us offset some of our costs so that we can move forward with that. And the bus, it just seems like a bus driving around, but it is a huge billboard that goes coast to coast. And that bus is part of Dash Aerosports, and Dash Aerosports has a pretty big project that I would like to work with Kuvacash on. And, I didn't know, or I guess I wasn't brave enough to think that we could completely take cash out of an equation, but Drako sat down with myself, a president and a COO, and discussed quite frankly and intellectually and detailed on how we can remove cash from the equation and just have Dash.
Okay, so maybe I'll give you guys a chance to elaborate a little bit more on that later. But for now, I'm going to move on to the pretty much the project of the hour. It's one of the most controversial projects to come through the Dash DAO. If not the most, you could argue that it's the most controversial project to come through the Dash DAO. So today we have Drako and James with us. They're going to tell us what the Kuvacash has been up to in the last little while.
Right, yeah. James, you want to?
Yeah, so I just like to, paint a little bit of context. I think when we first approached the network, it was just the two of us. Fast forward several months on, and we now have a team, including contractors, of north of 30 people. So most of those people are focused on building a product that we want to dominate in the market. That means that the infrastructure has to be robust. That means that there has to be an absolute fit between the product and the market. And in terms of the concerns that people have, we're basically launching a product in an economy that has people that have been burnt by financial money systems. So the trust building element is absolutely critical. And this is where having a network of credible partners, both on the ground and internationally as well, that can help facilitate some of the payments and ensure that we've got the right integrations, making sure that we have a branding presence that does justice to Dash, who have been key supporters for us on this journey, but also making sure that resonates and connects with people on the ground. And then lastly, making sure that once we've got fantastic software that is working well, that can solve problems, we are in a position that we can actually scale that. And scaling means actually taking an approach where we make sure that we iron out all the kinks within a contained group of people who are able to work with us in a rapid iteration to actually address any of the key issues. We're building a very sophisticated system that's got multiple layers. This is effectively a whole new money system that we're introducing to a country. That's got regulatory implications. There's a lot of legal work that goes into making sure that we are operating within the law. That's got technical ramifications in making sure that we're providing the safety nets for people who are using the platform. What if something goes wrong? Do I lose my money? Making sure that we've actually got clear and very solid answers to the questions that people might have. And then lastly, making sure that we're able to actually scale this. How do we actually scale this in a way that makes sense? Having ironed out all of the kinks, and essentially this is the stage that we are now approaching. We're now towards the end of the initial development cycle, where we've got the core product that we'll be looking to put out there, and now we're looking to actually pilot that with a small group of people, and then scale that from there.
Okay.
So let me talk a little bit about the pre-pilot and the pilot. So there's a lot of talk, because there's a lot of talk in the Dash Nation about, and even frankly some ridicule about like what a pre-pilot is for. And I think there's a lot of naivety and understanding that once we what the functions are of a pre-pilot, we're going to have around 10, 15 people that we are very carefully concierging through the process and taking huge amounts of insight from, to know how we are going to modify and change our software, because we're taking our best shot at the software with a lot of insight as well. But once it's in the hands of people, that's a different context. It's a whole different thing when they're using it to get money, to get paid, to cash out, right? So what we have to do is figure out all those little kinks. And once we've pushed the start button, you can't stop. You can't like go halfway through a pilot and say, okay, everyone, pause now, right? It's really just like the engine has started, and really there'll be a ramp from the pre-pilot all the way through to main launch, all the way through to making this thing huge. So, if we can't just go from 0 to 1,000 users, because frankly, we just don't have the capacity to deal with it. And also we'd be causing those 1,000 users, maybe a large proportion of them, to experience, issues that we just have no way of predicting. We must go through a pre-launch stage, and we must be very careful and give ourselves time to solve those issues. Now, they're not just software issues. They're also issues with Operation Stack, which spans at the moment between London and Harare, right? So we have our partners and our financial services, banking partners who are in the UK, so that we can effectively take money that people pay into a bank account and turn that into crypto and Dash, and then have that sent over and here in someone's wallet, and let those people be able to cash it out if they want to into USD, because that is a huge trust builder for us. But that stack, that involves about 8 partners, I think, in total. So you just think about every one of those moving parts that we have integrated, and each of those partners has a view or an API or a back office entry, some screen, some security involved around that, training around that, like to actually be able to affect all of those stages. Now, if you're doing it as like if we were doing it, let's say as a hobby, some basic thing that we would just, we're going to do a few transactions and just prove the point. Well, yeah, sure. You could run that, but it wouldn't be actually debugging a scalable operation stack, including the software and everyone who's a touch point in the middle. That's what we're trying to do, is go from 0 to scale. That requires a pre-pilot. And then what we do is we actually grow into a pilot, and we're going to retain that pilot to have, I think, under 500 people. And that's when we start to move away from having to concierge every single person through problems, because we already know that we've solved the kind of like the really difficult ones, right? And so we can open it up a bit. And then more problems will emerge, or more issues that we can address will emerge in terms of like our scaling of the operations, in terms of how people will use the software when we're not concierging them. And then, once we've done that, we can go to a more public pilot. Maybe that's up to like 5,000 users or so. And then from that, we have several waves of main launch, because we're looking, to be able to support potentially millions of users in the future. But for now, we just really, our target is, let's get ourselves to 5,000 users. Let's get ourselves to a product that is seamless and people love to use and love to talk about and get real benefit that helps them in their current situation. Like James was saying, it's not great in Zimbabwe, and that's the opportunity. People also turn this around and say, hey, it's not great in Zimbabwe, it's not a place to do business. No, absolutely not. It's a frontier market that is a massive opportunity for us. People want to be able to store, have a way of storing their value and get hard currency out. That is a huge opportunity.
And the key thing is that we've actually got very little room for error. Because people have been burned so much by different systems of money in Zimbabwe. It has to absolutely work extremely well. I think the other area that I wanted to mention as well is security. So if you've got people actually coming to cash in, that money is actually sitting somewhere. It has to actually move and it has to circulate. There's all the protocols around that we actually have to ensure that we've got working tight as a drum, and then we scale sensibly from there.
Yeah, we should, we're also doing something quite different in how we are provisioning. So there's been some questions on Dash Nation as well, some very valid questions, even coming from people who detract a lot. It's quite hard to filter people.
Drako, don't let me distract you. Keep that thought. I just want to point out that as we're listening to him right now, this is how he thinks. This is how he types on Discord. He's very analytical, detailed, to the point. And that comes off as harsh to some people. To me, it comes off as somebody that's a subject matter expert, believes in what he's doing. And it's not conveying on Discord via being typed. But when you sit down and you have a beer with this guy, you see that he's the one that you want to be in charge of this project and his team. Sorry, James.
Yeah, very good point, Scott.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Thanks,
I hope I didn't distract you. I know that might have broke your train of thought. I'm just listening to you. And I've talked to you before, and I know how you're very to the point, very efficient in your communication. And it's not very fluffy or anything like that, but it gets the point across quickly, efficiently, and we can do business. That's the guy I want to do business with.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you saying that. Scott. Actually, we, like I say, it's, sorry, I lost my train of thought a little bit, but.
Sorry.
Thanks a lot, Scott.
No, it's all right. We've got to do a couple of things. We do have to keep the community happy to an extent. The second thing is that there are some hard truths, right? It's not like we have some deeply experienced people together with very naive people that are on the DAO, and it's just, I don't know if anyone's had a situation and had them in a position where, let's say, I've been here. I will sit down and speak with anybody on the phone. Personally, as you know, Tal, I make this offers, and I've had many people that have taken me up on that offer, and it's been fantastic. Because what can happen is, instead of just typing out like kind of the same old question, same old answer over and over again, and sort of different angles, new people come on, you're answering it over and over, and I'm getting, I guess what happens is I get more and more direct. It's a lot easier to sort of work people through the context of what it is that we're saying, why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah, and that's why this is a very important medium for you. Like, I think you're much better in this environment to explain your point of view.
Well, I want to say something too. Like, look, some of the things we say go against what people really believe, but may not even have evidence for, right? But they believe, if someone believes something and you say something that doesn't agree with it, sometimes it can come across as aggressive. And sometimes I do push the limit a little bit just to be like, listen, I know what I'm talking about. I'll stand by everything I say. So, anyone who's got anything that they want to discuss with me further or wants to know a little bit more about what our position is, they are free absolutely to give me a call. I will schedule a time and have a chat, even if you don't have a masternode. In the same way that Scott is there educating the public, talking to individuals, getting them on board, he will talk to anybody. It doesn't matter if you've got a masternode or not. Now, I actually met a masternode owner and his partner at Reno, and it was quite interesting because initially, I guess they weren't as positive.
They said you're an asshole.
They said I'm an asshole.
Absolutely. Yeah. I quote, Draco's going to be here. Isn't he an asshole? I go, well, you guys talk to him and you form your own opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got the opportunity to sit down and have a chat. And I think what happened is, we got our points across, and I got to really understand a lot more about the concerns of a masternode owner, and they got to see that we know what the hell we're doing, and it's an incredible project with a real team behind it. And in fact, I'm not really that much of an asshole. I can be. I'm not going to say I won't, but I mean, it's more about like defending, just sitting behind what I know is the truth. And some people, it's difficult. They just don't like that change. It causes, it feels like I'm attacking somebody when I'm kind of going against what they've believed for a long time.
You already attacked me in this conversation. You said I was naive as a masternode.
Right.
Yeah, me too. I'm personally offended.
No, I want to point this out. I want to point this out is that he's sitting there and he said the words, and to him, it just makes absolute sense. I'm a marketing guy. I have to know how to work with people. We work at the air shows all the time. So he said the term naive because it's an efficient way to describe it. And some masternodes might go, wait, did he just call masternodes naive? Guess what? I'm a masternode. I'm completely naive until Drako taught me about breakage on the backside of the debit cards and the different gift cards that are utilized in different systems. I was completely naive to that aspect, and therefore I was a naive listener until he told me how it works. So just because you're being naive about something doesn't mean that you can't change that.
Okay, guys, we're getting a little bit off track. I'd like to talk about the first half. I would like to talk about Kuvacash. So I have a question for James. What is your ultimate? Just say one thing quickly. I want to move on.
One thing, very, very quickly. I just want to talk about naive. I want to say, in many cases, in many things, I learn a lot of stuff as well, and I am also a naive masternode owner for certain aspects that I don't know anything really about. Right? Nobody knows everything, so we all have that naivety, and I wasn't directing it at any one person or whatever. I just want people to understand when I say naive, I just mean like we are experienced in a certain way, and in fact we have a very Sorry, I'm getting calls just coming through.
Okay, that's no problem.
Anyway, look, I'll move on. Anyway, that's fine. I just want to say that it's not a bad thing to be naive. In fact, to accept something. And
that's all I was saying.
You learn, and I learn too by being naive and listening.
Okay, so let's continue talking about Kuvacash. First of all, I'm going to get a general overview from James, and then I'm going to take the point of view of a detractor, and I'm going to say I'm going to be devil's advocate, and so you guys can explain your project well. All right. So first of all, I want to ask James. You have a lot of experience on the ground in Zimbabwe. I just want to ask you, like, how are recent events with the government, and is there a new government there, and how do you feel that Kuvacash can take advantage of this situation to start being a new money system in Zimbabwe?
Yeah, basically there's serious economic turbulence right now. Essentially, you are having a period of heightened inflation. So to just put that into plain language, there's a small cafe that's near our office in Harare, and a beer, for example, that costs $4 is now $20. Now that's over the period of about 4 to 6 weeks that's actually changed.
Wow.
So it's getting to the point where people have to ask themselves the question in the population whether it's actually worth it to go to work, because the prices of everything that they're having to buy is escalating so rapidly to the extent that it's actually more than what they actually earn. And this is all happening within a very, very compressed period of literally weeks. So there's new policies that have been introduced which are aimed at introducing austerity, increasing the ability of the government to actually draw more tax, but it's come at a tremendous cost to the man on the street. Life is a lot more expensive. Life is a lot more. It's a lot more difficult because there's queues for petrol, there's queues for diesel, for basic commodities in the supermarket. So people are now having to shape their lives around how they can get the core things that they need for their families to survive. Now, if you're introducing a new money system in that sort of context, there's two things that you're basically dealing with. First of all, it's a trust question. People want to know that, okay, if the little money that I have, it becomes an extremely rare resource. If I put that into this system, can I actually trust it? And this is where it's very, very important that us as a brand and any partners that we're working with are seen to be credible. So anything that's actually going into the public domain, it has an effect on the confidence of the people that we are looking to serve within the market. So, in a nutshell, the situation in Zimbabwe is extremely turbulent, and what that has done is that it has opened up an opportunity that I feel is quite unique to introduce people to a possible alternative to what they've always known. And that alternative has to be something that gives them a store of value that has some immunity from either policy inconsistency or policy that can hurt the ability of people to retain the value of what they have.
So let me add a little bit to that. Like, That's something else that gets talked about is why are we Kuva? Why are we not just, Dash? What happens, what is it that makes us say, hey, we need to use a brand?
Yes, that's one of the questions I was going to ask. Yep.
Right. So sorry to preempt it, but
yeah, it's okay.
We are Kuva because we're shaping the brand and the brand message specifically for what is going on in Zimbabwe, and also like something that we can expand into the broader African market, right? So starting with Zimbabwe, we're very, very controlled about the messaging, and that's a lot to do with what we talk about trust building and so on that James was discussing. We're very careful about messaging. We're careful to wrap our services around and say, hey, this is Kuvacash, and these are the services we provide around what is the underlying core platform that is the value rails, and that is Dash, right? And that allows us to do the instant payments. It allows us to do the value storage. It's a highly traded international token. Liquidity is high so that we can actually do this, in a country like Zimbabwe. But at the same time, we must control like all of the aspects of how people see this service that they're using. That is this new money system. Now, we are not just, we can't just say, hey, we're Dash, because Dash is many things. If you go on the internet and type Dash, it's just got 1,000 messages that all dilute what we're trying to do. So although we're powered by Dash, we have to have our separate like bubble, if you like, which is Kuva. And Kuva means to have, and Shona, which is the language, Zimbabwean language, and fits also with the messaging and that we are building and the position that we're building. It just means that we can have it separate from Dash. When people search for Kuva, they get our messaging, they get our services that we're providing, and we're able to make those as compelling and interesting to people on the ground so that they get interested and then they come on board and then they use the service and it feels appropriate to them. Does that make sense?
Yep. I was going to ask you what Kuva stood for, and you preempted me again. So you're on the ball today. So is it your, just a quick question. Do you think that this would be able to, like you say, Shona, it's a Zimbabwean language. Do you still think that Kuvacash would have the same appeal in other African countries?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because the fundamental drive is to actually take people from a situation where they did not have any control of their money. They did not have a secure store of value. They did not have an internationally backed currency that is immune from policy that may actually affect what they own. So in fact, so Kuvacash is actually Kuvane Cash. So the full meaning actually is to be in a position with value. So cash in this sense is actually digital. So we're basically leapfrogging the existing systems that are there and providing people with a liquid form of transacting that has international relevance, that protects them from some of the issues that affect people on the ground. So those problems, the problems that are in Zimbabwe, I think are a lot more acute because of the history of inflation and some of the uncertainty that we've had. I mean, if you think about it, we are operating in an environment that's had a little bit of everything. In the last 12 months, we had a military takeover. We had a major election. We've had a complete turning of the tables in terms of the entire currency situation. There's not a lot of places in the world, apart from, say, possibly Venezuela or in fact, or Argentina, but in terms of the extent of the turmoil economically, there's very few places that have actually experienced that. And through that, we've actually had a very consistent message that is actually resonating with people. So we have also, in the last few weeks, been putting out the feelers, not just within Zimbabwe, but actually across the African continent. And we have people wanting and asking to download the app from places like Nigeria, Botswana, South Africa, Mozambique, Zambia. And so there's something very, very compelling about the proposition that we are providing to people, and people are connecting and resonating with the branding as it stands.
I think the way that you've got to think about where we see Dash fitting in and where we see it being the critical part of the whole system is that it's a rails, it's a payments platform. There are raw wallets, and there is definitely like an ideology around it, which is about like it's about freedom, right? And that also fits really well with what we like kind of educate and position people about with Dash. We give them a BIP44 wallet that they have full control of their finances. We are going to introduce hardware support as well. And we always use the protocols that we use for them having their value, like in Dash, the protocols are always open. So it means that they can pay into a Dash address. They can use their wallet words to extract all of their money. Like we can, move out of Kuvacash they want to, if necessary. But in the meantime, we provide all these useful services, like merchant services that allow people to immediately convert into USD, or remittance services that allow someone with a bank account who has cash, they don't have to go to an exchange or to go through some funny process and have a wallet and do all this. It's an end-to-end, what we call STP or straight-through process for them to put value directly, put Dash into somebody's wallet in Africa, like in Zimbabwe. And then from there, that person can immediately, if they want to, it's a concern of trust, just take that and cash and convert it into USD, cash it out. So we have this way that we're controlling the message, but at the same time, we're providing these services on top that, frankly, like in Venezuela could be done as well, because there it's difficult to come across Dash. And there are people that have money outside the country want to send it in, but there's a whole rigmarole and you have to be quite technical to understand how to do that. So we have to remove all of that complexity and introduce those services to make it really straightforward, really intuitive, and on brand, on message. And to get it on top of that, make sure that people develop and feel a trust for what it is that we're providing. And this is just a very difficult thing to do if we have to use a brand that's very diluted and doesn't have a focus on that for the region.
Okay, I'm going to take a little quick moment to plug Dash Nation based on something you just said. As you know, I'm Dash Nation founder, and I believe very strongly that all the actors in Dash can help each other if we use our strengths to pull Dash forward. People that are good at various things, use their strengths to push Dash forward. You don't have to try things that you're not good at. Use your strengths to push us forward. And what you just said actually goes right into that, because you said that you'd be willing to help in Venezuela if you needed to with your strengths and trying to get Kuvacash started over there. So that's cool. And I really believe that that's what we should all be doing if we want Dash to move forward as a decentralized organization. We can all help each other. Do you have any comments about that, Scott?
Can I say something too just before Scott's
Oh, he's
on
gone.
mute, right?
He's gone.
He's gone. See you, Scott. No, I want to say something about that. I think, look, your message of positivity and actually advocating and pushing always for professionalism and keeping things positive on Dash Nation, making sure people are posting the facts, making it clear when it's a speculation, etc. I think this positivity is what's going to really get us ahead in Dash. Two things: positivity and a respect for what is the truth, because there are some hard facts to face, and there are people who have beliefs that I think are not pushing things forward, and they go into a very negative space sometimes. Now, myself, I like to push out what's true. This is my thing. I'm very upfront about it, but it can be subject to a lot of negativity, just because it looks like some form of attack. No, we're very positive. If you knew me and James, we're two of the most positive people about getting things out there and making action happen. We feel that you share that as well, Tal, and you're driving towards it. And with respect for you weathering a bit of a storm right now, where actually what you're doing is a lot of the negative is gone elsewhere. And if you look, we're getting some serious business conversations done on Dash Nation, and a lot of the what we say the bad actors or people who are the negative message, they're either coming back with something a bit more positive, and we can actually engage. A bit less poisonous, and it's actually, I think, going to help Dash. And I think this is just something that everyone needs to realize. Positivity is a great thing, and it's how we can all move forwards together. So is facing the truth, facing difficult truths, facing things that you might have to reconsider. These are not attacks. These are just getting us into a better place. And I think you're really helping with that, and Dash Nation in particular is really helping with that process, Tal.
Thank you. Okay, that's a little bit of a preview of the second half. All right, so I just want to ask James a very quick question, and I have a piece of advice and a comment for him. James, how come you don't hang out on the Dash Nation on Discord?
It's just a factor of time. I've basically got a team of 30 that are working flat tack to complete a very, very complex product that has to basically touch so many nodes in terms of the regulatory side of things, the technical side of things, the marketing side of things. We're basically rolling out a money system in a country and looking to scale that across the continent. So it's just it's simply a factor. I do keep an eye on what's happening and liaise and engage with the guys in terms of how we approach certain matters. But it's really just a factor of I would love to get a lot more involved. We're gonna have to grow a little bit more. So that I can be released to engage a lot more in the community. But by all means, I am very open to being contacted directly. If anybody wants to sort of engage with me, please feel free to direct message me. We can liaise.
Okay,
Yeah,
so let me just have a quick comment on that.
Tal,
Okay, go ahead, Scott. Yeah.
On that note, Tal, though, it's very common in an organization to have one key speaker to uniform the voice. You wouldn't want to have, between my team too, is they do have Slack logins, but on the same note, discussing Dash Aero or demo projects. If I'm not available on the phone or I'm flying or something like that, I do not want them answering for me when theoretically I'm making the decisions. We're all coming together as a team, but we have to make sure that we have a uniform voice coming to the community.
Okay, well, with that being said, I still would suggest to you, James, maybe just based on the feedback I've received from the community, you're a very intelligent person, you're very articulate, and I believe that it would do your project well if you showed up from time to time and maybe answered some questions from the community. That's just a comment.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on. It's a very ambitious project you guys have. You've received quite a big amount of funding from the network thus far. Can you explain to the viewers what exactly you have done with this funding and the major accomplishments you've achieved up to this point?
Yeah, so we've essentially built a wallet that people are able to use the Dash network to send funds to people with just a phone number. Now that sounds fairly simple, but there's a whole number of integrations that are required to make that possible. There's a set of merchant services that we have structured that enable merchants to also be able to accept payments. That again have required us to engage with merchants, speak to them, get the insights in terms of what are the core problems that they have. We know that, for example, with existing payment methods, it can take up to 3 weeks for them to actually receive the funds that have been sent to them. So a lot of the core features of Dash are things that we are leveraging to provide a solution to merchants. We've been able to actually build out a team on the ground that is looking at the regulatory and compliance side of things. We need to have an accounting function. We need to have a sales function. We need to have a security function that's actually looking at how actual money flows within the system itself. So on a number of different levels, we need to ensure that when it's time to actually go live, we're not in a position where we have to actually press the pause button or tell people, oh, the system is actually down, because there's no turning back. So effectively building that entire operational stack and making sure that it is robustness to the ceiling is absolutely critical.
Let me address something, because I think Tal was saying, okay, at the moment the network spent around we've done around 1.25 million, I think, in total that the network has spent on getting us this far. And I want to actually give you a contrast of the kinds of things that James goes to, like as his go-to to describe when he's being asked a question like that. And also a lot of what the people in the network who are much more like on the technical side of things generally, not so much on the business side, tend towards, right? So they were like, where is the software? Let's see the software. You know, it's a lot of that kind of conversation going on. Let's see, like, want to go through it with a fine-tooth comb, the software. It's actually like we spend around, I think, 60% on the software, but the rest of it is spent on all the partner development, the business development, the licenses, the legals, because these are critical parts. They're actually almost more critical than the software itself.
Absolutely.
Because if we don't, the dependency is like, you know, there's 101 ways to cut the software. The dependency is on, can we get, you know, do we have the right team to bring those partnerships online? Like, I'll give you an example of what kind of a dude this guy is. I don't know if you have any awareness of how difficult it is to bring a credit card into a proposition like there's something that's chargeable with the crypto. It's an extremely difficult proposition, but James personally closed that deal, right? we'll have Kuva wallets. We'll have a credit card that you can charge with Dash in the wallet. And we closed that deal last week.
That's a new development, isn't it? Yeah, I didn't know anything about that. Wow, thanks for mentioning that.
I posted it up.
I didn't see it. I missed that one. Yep.
But we have just so much going on. But just one example is that. Now, if you have an understanding how difficult that is, think about how hard it is for us to have obtained our ABLA Tier 1 license. We're above our partners now. It's another very difficult thing. And I think people just don't look at this. They say, oh, like a lot of MNOs who are technically focused are like, well, so what? Or they're saying things like, we must have some sort of like nefarious connections to the government. They're not like our friends or anything. Like, we are just dealing with, people who are in the bureaucracy, and we have to, work through just like anybody else. We have to work through the process and work through the statutaries and the laws and everything to get those licenses, to make those people understand what the value is and to let us give us freedom to operate. This is not, this has been so poorly positioned and discussed in the community. It's part of the reason where, I know that sometimes we may have some views that agitate people, but there's just not an appreciation for the difficulty of getting that done. And there really isn't an alternative for the method that we're doing. We're taking a leveraged approach. That means we bring a partner on board, and that partner may be regulated themselves, like a telecommunications company, but they may have like 4 million customers. One of our partners has got in the millions of customers, and they have got a point that where we introduce our service to those customers, we get 4 million people who have got the ability to charge up now with remittance money they have received from overseas, their phone or their utility bill. And that's a leveraged approach, and it requires us having to go through that kind of process where we get regulated.
You're cutting off, Drako.
That. Yeah, no, I'm getting people calling. Well, obviously, we're also doing business. This is my phone, and we just get calls all the time.
Oh, that's okay. It was brief.
Sorry about that.
Yep.
What I was going to say is, so what I want to do is just segue a little bit into this professionalization of the DAO is
No. That's gonna be second half. We're gonna talk about Kuvacash now.
it is part of what I would like is though people to appreciate that work, and it's difficult to have it if people just don't dismiss it. It's very hard to get an edge in and say this is an important discussion to have, and there's actually points at which the MNOs might want to understand and give us feedback on the sorts of decisions we make. We literally cannot expose half of that stuff because it becomes a poisonous brawl. And that's also part of the reason James is being nice. He's saying, I don't have time because I've got to run the team. But it absorbs a lot of time, absorbs a lot of my time, just bringing in, coming in and letting people know what's going on. And then kind of fighting off, if you like, or kind of responding to the very naive detraction in many cases. In some cases, I'm going to say, in some cases, there are valid points that we have to answer, but they just get bundled in with the wash of nonsense. And so that's something that just wanted to say that we wanted to try address this, but it's not an easy situation.
So, gentlemen, your proposal that you have in front of the DAO right now is for funding for the pilot for Kuvacash, and it's a lot for pre-launch. Okay, so a lot of people are saying, why are we giving you so much money when it's when it's only a handful of people that are going to be affected by this? So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so I think it's important that the pilot is not actually the project. The project is to actually have a national service that people are using all across Zimbabwe, and after that, all across Africa. So essentially, that's really where the value is. That's what you should be measuring, because in effect, what we're looking to do with the pilot, the purpose of the pilot is to fine-tune the product, to iterate and make sure that we are ironing out any kinks that are within the product. And essentially, the metrics or any KPIs around the pilot should actually be around our ability to take feedback from people and use that to improve the product. That is the absolute #1 priority of the pilot.
Our aim, actually, we have an internal, our internal aim, internal vision. We call it a convergence point. Is when we are finished with it's called the pre-pilot and the private pilot. When we're finished with those, people will love our product. They'll love it. They'll know what Dash is. They'll know that Kuva is the way that they can store value, and they want to tell everybody. And we'll be saying, not yet, right? That's what we want. That's our internal aim. They've got to love that product, and they've got to trust it. And for us to do that, we have to debug our whole operations stack. That's all the partners, all the training, all the kinks. We have to do that by hand for each customer, just in case if they have a problem, we can unblock them immediately, right? We can make sure that they know that someone's dealing with it if there's anything like that. Because those people, we were using those people to bring in the next wave of people, and then 500 or so pilot people that we'll get those people to love it, and then we'll use those people to bring in the next wave, and that's called a member get member campaign, and it's our key campaign so that we don't have to spend a lot of money on marketing. We do it. A campaign like this spreads because people love the product and they just want to recommend it, right? And all we do is we hold them back. That's how we want it. That's our internal KPI, if you want, or we call it a convergence point. People love the product. And to do that, it costs money. We have to have our dev team working like hell for leather through that period because all sorts of stuff will be coming in. We have to iterate, update the app very quickly. Our partners will be on us non-stop. We have to have individuals who deal with it. We need an operations director and operations management. So it's expensive. Once we start this process, it costs us a lot to continue it. And we need to know that the network has the confidence to just let us get on with it because we cannot pause. The disruption that pause caused us last month was massive. And we posted, listen, we're going to shut down operations. We have to wind everything down. And that's the truth, because it was that disruptive that we have an uncertainty of what would happen when we approach everyone and say, listen, it's not happening on this date anymore for these reasons. We really just need to sit down again. We don't know what's going to happen when we have those negotiations. So we say, look, we're going to wind down, okay? Because that's it, and we'll take our chances next time. Now, people have interpreted that to be like, oh, they didn't tell us the truth. It was, obviously they could keep things running. To be honest, we just didn't know whether we could or couldn't. As it stands right now, we can take another shot this month, but if we don't get funded this month, we're going to have to look at our options, really. And it's like anything is open. That is, we have, because our aim is bigger than everything. Like, it's bigger than us. It's bigger than Dash. We're landing a money system in Zimbabwe it's going to make people like activate that whole region and land us on the map. We are, so we are doing this no matter what. The network has to realize this. We're not going away. It's going to happen no matter what. How it happens, whether the network is involved or not, is another question. It's another story. Optimally would be that the DAO is involved and the DAO is funding it because we have our incentives aligned. If it's non-optimal, then also the outcome for the network is non-optimal. So I will say, we're looking. This is like it's always the last chance. We're 3 strikes really as far as our proposal funding goes, and we're going to have to examine any and all other options.
Okay, well, it sounds like a very ambitious project. You have my vote as a masternode operator, and I hope that this format that we've given you today is going to help to convince some people that may have voted no in the past, maybe based on personal opinions, or maybe based on the fact that they don't believe that it's a good value for Dash. But for me, as a masternode owner, I see perfect value in this, and I wish you guys well. I want to touch on a little bit about the atmosphere in Zimbabwe. One of the concerns people have is the corrupt nature of this country. Is that a valid concern or no?
Let me speak to that quickly, just also to give some context, and then James is the expert in these matters, right? But we just got to understand, like, there's a lot of push and a lot of hope in what is happening in Venezuela. And Venezuela is far above more corrupt than Zimbabwe. And I don't think people realize that in the network. Like, as in the corruption index, OECD corruption index, Venezuela is several countries above in terms of corruption Zimbabwe. So it's very, very corrupt. So, we're not saying that, because another thing you've got to realize is that there's been massive change in Zimbabwe. They're opening for business, and there's very low tolerance for corruption right at this point. As of 12 months ago, we've had a very corrupt regime really been flipped out, and the sentiment changed drastically. So let James going to talk into that. But I just wanted to say, let's compare the kinds of projects that are on the DAO. Not a lot of them in regions where there is high corruption, but there's still the opportunity there. And in Zimbabwe, we're certainly not the worst.
Yeah. So when it comes to corruption, the government that has been installed, there was an election in the middle part of this year, and they took office at the start of August. They are under incredible pressure, both domestically and internationally, to show that they are taking a strong stance against corruption. So for the first time in many years, we've actually seen high-profile government figures being arrested for corruption. There's a very active anti-corruption commission that's actually investigating issues of corruption. But one of the key things that we're actually also saying is one of the strengths of what we're doing is that Kuvacash actually provides the opportunity to provide radical transparency in terms of the transactions that people are actually doing, but at the same time providing those in a way that's actually cost effective and affordable for people to transact. So we see us as a money system not only perhaps just starting off with how people send money to each other, but eventually how money can actually be sent to the government in a completely incorruptible way, and taking advantage of the advantages of the blockchain to actually do that. So I think for us, if anything, it's an opportunity to provide a platform that provides transparency, and we've always had that position. So far in our journey, we haven't actually encountered any instances of corruptions or officials asking us for a bribe. We have had frustration in terms of how slowly things move. Getting our licensing was a tremendous rigmarole. We had to put up collateral. There's effectively criminal records checks on all of the people that are involved. We had to speak with people from the Financial Intelligence Unit. There's a whole process involved in actually becoming a regulated institution, and Zimbabwe is actually one of the most rigorous in terms of actually enforcing a compliance process. So for us directly, we haven't had an issue with corruption where people are looking to ask for bribes or anything like that. And certainly there's a change of atmosphere. Most government officials right now are very, very nervous about even being thought of as possibly being corrupt, because there's a lot of political mileage in being able to say, hey, we've got a victory here in terms of fighting corruption.
I think that's a fantastic point you make, James. I think Zimbabwe has an opportunity to really turn the corner here, to clean things up tremendously, both politically and financially with Kuvacash. So I think this point in history, as Drako puts it, being on the right side of history, I kind of see where he's coming from here, because people feel very passionately about this, and I can see the passion that you two gentlemen have about this issue. So, like I said, I wish you guys all the best. And I want to say a quick question that I found. How do people know that Dash is behind Kuvacash? How do people know that Dash is powered by Kuvacash?
Well, on the interface
itself, or Kuvacash is powered by Dash. Sorry.
Oh yeah, it's in a very obvious way. The actual interface itself on the home screen, you've actually got a big thing that says Dash, and
anyway you pay,
how much value you have in there.
We're gonna
right through the experience, people actually know that, okay, I'm actually sending money in Dash. A lot of our branding, as well, as you saw at Moneycom, for example, we've always got the powered by Dash, and that's present on all of our public collateral that we'll be putting out. We'll be doing an activation in Harare soon, where we've got a booth where we're going to be welcoming people and sort of educating them on how to use the platform. Again, that's got powered by Dash.
I think, yeah. So on that note, the fact we also socialized a lot about like how this thing was funded and the free way it was funded. It might be free in terms of like liberty with the DAO. And that there's going to be very few like institutional investors. They're just too nervous to fund something like that would be in Zimbabwe or move with such speed. But the DAO was able to do that for us, and we've able to, we really respect that people have given us the opportunity to do this and put their confidence with us. But we talk about that a lot. We say, look, this is how it was funded. Dash is how it's funded. Dash is supporting us, and it will continue to help us to push this thing through and make it really happen, because this is something that other projects do not serious projects do not actually are not actually able to provision.
Okay, this has been very informative about Kuvacash, and I hope the viewers to Cash Alternative TV have a more complete understanding, given this environment where you don't have to type 1,000,000 miles a minute. You can just speak freely, and I'm happy that you guys have this environment to talk. I have one last question that user Dash-a-meter had on the Dash Nation on Discord. he would like to know, based on the DAO is funding you a lot of money, and we're not really seeing any equity in your company in regards to that. We do have an indirect benefit that Dash sees adoption, but he would like to know if you have any plans on interacting with an entity such as Dash Ventures in the future, giving the network a piece of action of Kuvacash.
So let me kind of address that. That's actually a complex question. So one thing is that you've got to understand that me and James do not have equity in Kuvacash or any of the business structures in Kuvacash. They're tied up in trusts, and those trusts, we're not beneficiaries of those trusts. So just make that a public statement. You know, this thing here is built around being a permanent system that obviously, we know that I've got some Dash. You know, that's all I will say about it. But, you know, it's in my interests to take the bull by the horns and make Dash successful. And that is how, you know, the majority of the reward in this is. You know, I will speak for myself, I don't speak for James. Obviously, we like Dash, so let's just leave it at that. You know, everyone's personal financial circumstances are their own. But if, you know, we manage to land this, we know something in the background that many people don't. And that is that we know that Kuvacash can really, really make a difference. We have some models that we've built around, like, if we manage to pull a million Dash, let's say, out of circulation into use, what that would do to the price of Dash. So our incentive is very tied together with everybody else's on the network, all the other masternode nodes on the DAO. And that is that the price of Dash should go up. And those people who invested, who believed in it, who held it through Christmas, they should benefit. They're still supporting us. They're still investing us by voting where the generated funds go from the super block. And so, you know, that is something that, you know, that's your main way of getting paid. It's my main way of getting paid. Now, on top of that, we have what we call this utility node infrastructure. But this, we cannot say anything about this right now. Okay, just understand that anyone who wants to look into what the implications might be around securities laws, etc., will understand why it is, and the prosecutions they're doing, why it is that we don't discuss it at all. But just to know that we will make good on the VCO, and we obviously have other, you know, plans for utility nodes. That's all I'll say. And enough said. I will not answer public questions about this, because anything we say, and we're free to change our minds however we want. That's all I can really say on that. But that is the only way that we're being incentivized in any way.
Okay, so to answer Dash Emider's question, are you going to be open to potentially dealing with the Dash Ventures in the future?
We won't be dealing with Dash Ventures, no. Not now, not in the future. There's no, as it stands, there is no Dash Ventures at this point, and private capital has gone into Kuvacash as well. So there's just, it's not like Dash Ventures can approach us and can put funds into it separately from our requests on the DAO. But actually, we don't have any, it's not appropriate for Kuvacash as far as our business structure goes. We're building a new kind of digital business, and we have got a way of incentivizing those who are inside that business. And we also have the VCO as well, which we will absolutely honor. Make sure that people register at that. That's critical for being able to get yourself the VCO, the outcome of VCO with the notes. But apart from that, that's all we can really say on the matter.
Okay, so do you have anything to add to that, James?
Basically, just to say that we're actually all in the same boat.
Yeah.
So we don't have equity, and essentially our reward actually comes from getting adoption.
Okay.
And always, yeah.
All right, so you guys have been very patient with me. I'm going to give you guys a chance to have final comments about Kuvacash, not about the second half comments. But so is there anything you might want to say to the Masternode network that's currently voting on your proposal right now?
Why don't we just say one thing first? Is like, have a look at the demo that we showed. We've got a piece of demo video that we produced maybe over a month ago. Now, please have a look at that, because that really shows what we've produced, and it explains a bit about the business model and so on. Since then, we've actually taken the time now to reskin everything. The software is absolutely beautiful. You know, the DAO is paid for that. This is your, investment in what we're doing. Let us launch it. Just give us a chance to launch it. Give us a month, and let's see how we go, and then decide whether it's worth funding anymore, right?
because we've paid 1.25 million. We're asking for about 10% of that to launch it and to give it an outcome that we'll share with the network. And then, we may end up having funding or asking for funding for a longer period of time, but it will only be if Kuvacash is successful and leading to adoption, in which case everybody's incentives are aligned.
Okay, sorry, I forgot one question. I want to leave on that. That would have been better, but I have one more question. How much length of time do you think it's going to be before Kuvacash will be able to launch fully?
Oh, we think about over the next 6 months, we'll have our wave one launch. That would be my estimate. And you got to understand, we're a lot of uncertainty right now because we need to get to our pre-pilot, and we need to put this into the hands of people and figure out how much work we need to do to get it right. This is like the same with any other proposition. If you look at your Revoluts and your Upholds and your businesses like that, they took years to get to where they are right now, and with customer base of not even 50,000 people. So let's it was like over a year before they got that. Now we don't think that we're going to be outside of that. We think actually though that the opportunity is very big and we will get adoption quicker. But we also have to manage the operations stack. We have to manage our partnerships, our banking diversity. A lot of things are uncertain. So I would say 6 months. If we're there with our wave one first launch in 6 months, I'll be very happy. If not, we will have the network updated so that they know what's going on. I hope the next part of the conversation is professionalizing this DAO and actually us being able to share a lot of information and insight so that people can MNOs can make those decisions and say, hey, you know what? Against all of these other proposals, we will continue to fund Kuvacash because it is really leading to something different. We're making history. And that's true. We would be making history if we landed Dash and Kuvacash as a money system in Zimbabwe. That's the first time ever in the world it would happen. So that's really keep that in mind. Can we have an opportunity to do that? That's all we're asking for right now.
Okay, you folks have been very patient while we talked about Dash Aerosports, FanDuel, and Kuvacash. But now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of this interview, which is talking about professionalism in the DAO. What are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? And what are some steps we can take to fix it from the perspective of these three gentlemen? This is just the opinions expressed by these three gentlemen. I reiterate once again, they might not have the same opinions as Cash Alternative TV or the Dash Nation, Dash Funded organization. This is just a forum for these gentlemen to express their views. But before we do that, let's take a quick minute because Drako and James are at Money 2020. Can you show the viewers the booth that Dash has set up there?
Yeah, let's show you what I've set up here. It's a beautiful looking booth. There's a couple of screens here. We've got there's Ryan over there in the background. We can see the transactions on our blockchain, the Explorer.
Very nice. Looks very professional.
More exhibits here. So yeah, definitely a good place to be. Dash has got a nice prominent booth right in the middle of everything, number 1429. So if anyone's here, come to see us. I'm going to be showing off the wallet, the Kuva wallet. There's also some Crypt Mobile here as well with the new phone.
All right, gentlemen, let's get into the second half. I'm going to start with Scott. I'm going to ask him, what do you believe that we're doing right as an organization, as the Dash DAO, Scott?
As far as the Dash DAO goes, what we're doing right, I would say that we're sustaining and maintaining some pretty key projects. That's actually a really good question. I'm thinking about from different projects that are continuing. I believe that the core people that I've seen in Dash are maintaining engagement regardless of the price of Dash. So I'd say the mindset of the community and the people that are involved, which normally is a good steering of the community from the people that are involved, is staying the course regardless of the price of Dash for that given day.
Okay. What about you, Drako and James? What do you think we're doing right in the DAO right now?
Well, for me, I'd say it's actually a perfect expression of democracy. Having come from a place where democracy wasn't always easily and freely available. You can easily appreciate the ability for people to express themselves freely, and having a system that is in effect incorruptible in terms of how it actually counts and makes votes available. We had a very, very contentious election in Zimbabwe a few months ago that had a number of issues that if for example, it was using a similar process to what the DAO uses, you wouldn't have had a lot of questions around the vote counting, whether a vote is actually valid, etc., etc. So I actually appreciate it as a vehicle for democracy.
Perfect. And I think, interestingly enough, we're also having a bit of a contentious cycle, I think, especially in relation to our own proposal on the DAO. So it's an interesting reflection of what's happening. But absolutely agree with James. I love the democratic aspect of the DAO, and that we really have an opportunity, like, just put ourselves out there and see if we can get those votes, get ourselves funded. It's like a great combination of competition and democracy all in one go. And we've had, I think, so far we've had a great time being involved with it, and really learning a lot. So yeah, I guess that's really too much. I've got too much more to say there. I think it's growing. One thing is that I noticed that I think that we are going in the right direction. We've got organizations like Dash Watch coming in, Dash Nexus, that are coming in, and they're really going to help drive things forward. So I'm encouraged by that. I'm also encouraged, obviously, that we've had our own proposal funded to a good extent to help us to do the work that we've done. So that's been amazing. So for me, that's my feedback.
Okay. So what do you think about the interpersonal relationships that are going on in the climate that we have going on right now in the DAO?
I think there's a lot of strong personalities in the DAO. There's a lot of people who came in quite early. I was one of these people who came in very early but didn't really participate in the community. I just was interested in a lot of different types of sort of altcoins and cryptocurrencies and so on. And didn't really participate that much, but we did get in, and obviously I'm connected with people who did do things in the very early stages of Dash. But I wasn't really engaged with the stronger personalities until, I guess, middle of last year, beginning of last year, where I started to learn a little bit more about who's in there. There's a lot of ideology that goes down, and that's kind of, it's okay. It's one of the things that I find causes a lot more of the clashing, because there is definitely at the moment an exposure of the clashing of ideologies within Dash. Everyone, of course, believes their own ideology is the right one, and ultimately that leads to sometimes depending on the way that we, the kinds of discussions that we have on the DAO will lead to certain kinds of tensions and conflict. We have seen what I would consider to be a split in the community, and that split is along ideological lines. I think the outcome of that, I'm pretty happy with it, because people can be in their respective bubbles, I guess, and have their discussions the way they want to. And I'm happy that we can, on Dash Nation, start to have some actual business discussions with people who are, I guess, in the same kind of camp. It's almost like if we do have too much of a mix going on, you kind of like keep brawling and you get nowhere. And we also, everyone kind of holds their cards back a little bit. So yes, there's a lot of tension going on. At the moment, I think a lot of the tension has been diffused by the community split along those ideological lines, and I, for one, don't think it's a bad thing that that's happened, and that I think it's all part and parcel of the growth and the evolution of the DAO itself.
Okay, what do you have to add to that, Scott?
As far as the split goes, I guess a little bit more concerning to me, because I felt like, as things were going well, everybody was aligned, and as far as consensus goes to the voting rules, it seems like there's a bigger split and almost a division of efforts, which makes everything else less efficient. It's a lot of arguing, a lot of arguing going on about whose is better than the other, as opposed to how do we accomplish the best outcome.
Yeah, I think it's a distraction myself. You know, like I think we should like do the Dash Nation way. Everybody pull together to move Dash forward. But I think the recent split is probably going to take a little while for wounds to heal. But I was very encouraged with the conversation you were having on Dash Nation on Discord with a member of I guess he's not related to DAC, but he's a representative that feels passionately about DAC, and you guys were having a nice conversation about that. So I think the embers of reconciliation are there, and I do believe that we will get past that.
Let me say, because again, this is my opinions only, but I don't think that we need to reconcile with absolutely everybody. I think that there is definitely, room for certain ideologies to move away from Dash, and they don't do us a lot of good. That's my personal opinion. I've been monitoring the kinds of conversations that have been going on, let's say, on Twitter with certain people who have been representatives of Dash for a long time. And in particular, what was very discouraging, and part of the reason that I'm encouraged by the split, and is that innovators and influencers within the wider crypto community were being deeply alienated by certain representatives of Dash. And, we've really got to think about whether that's a great way forward, to brawl with people who have a different idea about what, they believe in crypto, and to brawl in a way that brings, Dash out and makes it look very aggressive and not particularly open to, different ways of thinking. And also that, we've got to think about things like, and this is not a popular statement, but like there is one Charlie Shrem in the world, one. And there's, many like of the types of people that are like, he's coming under attack. There are many of those guys, dime a dozen, right? Who are attacking this guy and alienating him away from Dash. I would just say, look, we want influencers and we want people who are innovators and business people in Dash. Let's try and think about the kinds of conversations that we can have with those people, not blocking them and fighting them, like some people have been doing. I'm calling it out here. It's a very deeply negative thing. Let's stay positive because we're really all in the same game. Everybody in all of crypto is in the same game of what we're trying to achieve to a large extent. The commonalities are a lot bigger than the differences. So let's think about that. Let's think about like how we can bring those people into Dash, bring influencers, bring better business people, bring innovators into Dash to help it out and not to become a silo and I guess almost like put a moat around our community. Let's think about what we can do to grow it and to bring people who are really like doing good and moving the most common parts of the crypto community forwards into our community.
I agree with that. That's one of the founding principles of the Dash Nation movement is to be open to the opinions and the input from other crypto communities and not set up tribalism, like say, oh, Dash is better than everything else and you have nothing to show me. And this is something that we've seen in the 5 months before we have started to moderate on the forums. We've seen a lot of this, other people from other currencies coming in, talking, maybe making valid points and getting shut down in a rude way. And this is not something that needs to happen. We have to talk to these people. If they continue to be rude, yes, I'll deal with that. But if they're not rude, we have something to learn from everyone. And I believe that we need to show a better professionalism in that manner.
Well, too, is like you said, they might be rude and we might not agree with them, but if they offer to the conversation, we can't answer or rebuttal what they're saying, there might actually be something that we need to look into regarding our network that they're actually bringing to our attention.
Absolutely.
Just because somebody's arguing with you and doesn't agree with you, I think there's great value in that conversation. Even if they might be rude, that's fine. But if I can't directly rebuttal their comment, there's something that I need to look deeper, not only in what I believe in, but also if it's a belief, but also our network.
Yeah, I'll specifically add myself before I let you guys continue. I find the Dash Monero dynamic to be very to be very divisive, and I do believe that maybe some leaders of Monero have proven to be very divisive as well in the past. But this does not apply to the entire community of Monero. There are some nice Monero people, just like there's some nice Dash people. There are some divisive Monero people, like there's divisive Dash people. We need to evaluate every situation from that lens. Not everybody is the same. So we can learn from people, and that's my contribution to this conversation.
Yeah, and Monero, for example, yeah, right from the get-go, Fluffy Pony was coming after Dash Aerosports, but most of the comments were basically talking about the privacy feature of Dash, and that actually, those conversations brought me into looking deeper into that as a newcomer to the crypto space in the sense of how the privacy worked. You know, that conversation did bring up some highlights and make me look closer at the Dash network. And
Absolutely.
some of their points were quite valid, and I believe those are being addressed by the core.
I think on that note as well, like, you know, it's important that we take, like, anybody who comes in and says anything, even if it's like an outright attack, it's actually an investment of their time, and they have a reason for making that investment of their time. Just like when I spend a lot of time with people on the forums, and it might look like, you know, I'm really pressing a particular point of view that might feel aggressive, right? But I'm spending an investment of time to try and make things better. In fact, you know, you could even say, like, it gives us an opportunity to showcase what's better, and to showcase how we deal with, like, thoughts that are different from our own, that we're not an echo chamber. And there's certainly on both sides poisonous individuals who will who derail that, and I'm very clear about that, and I always call it out. Like, it's not a case of, and I think that a lot more of the community should note and call out when there's actually poisonous individuals who are derailing conversations that are serious. The reason that we've had some really great conversations, even with people who are on the other side of a fence, let's say, people who may not support Kuva, people who may support Dash Racer, people who may not support Duck, right? We've managed to have some sensible conversations with those people because there haven't been those poisonous elements derailing them, in my opinion, right? And that's been extremely useful. I think these are the conversations that you are referencing now, Tal, and I think it's making the point, you know, this is what an open-minded forum is, and we can, like, learn, and we can appreciate people's investment and time in bringing those discussions forward and participating in them, even if they're on the other side of what we think.
Yeah, and this is another founding feature of Dash Nation movement is debate people on their points. Don't debate people on where they are and their motives, because when you debate based on that, you get nowhere. It's just an endless circle. But if you debate on points, then you attract other people to the conversation who might have other points, and you can actually come to a consensus around that if you just eliminate the personal aspect of it.
I think, can I just say one more thing on that? Like, is when a newcomer actually comes into Dash, they're likely not to know what the opinions and what this is. I wrote that article in the Medium about Kuvacash and the hopium trade, right? And I talk about what's good opinions, and that's in capital letters. Newcomers, there's no way that they know what capital letters good opinions are in Dash. And what happens is usually you have, particularly the more poisonous types, come and very much attack those people straight away, or try and, like, force them to see what good opinions, capital letters, are in Dash. And what that does is it puts them off, and it stops them from wanting to engage. We must be very delicate, and we must be very welcoming and open to newcomers. When they bring new ideas, it's not a case of attacking and reacting to them. It's about responding to them, appreciating what they're bringing, appreciating they're bringing their time and their investment, to Dash. They have interest, right? So I think I would like to see, for one, that dynamic change a lot. And it doesn't just spread. It's not just in Dash Nation. It's on Twitter. We can, a lot of people who are causing the problems here, blocking, attacking, defending, reacting. They're doing it in a much broader forum than Dash Nation. It's not the fact that it's happening just in Dash Nation, but everywhere. And it's causing us problems with our own proposition, isn't it, James? I mean, how can we bring serious people on board?
Yeah, the key thing is anytime we engage with a regulator or a telecommunications company or any significant organization, they do due diligence. And we say we are powered by Dash. So they Google and they sort of say, okay, what is Dash all about? So it's very important that what the wider world is actually seeing is something that is constructive, something that inspires confidence and puts people in a position where they say that, oh, okay, if we are to look at all the various options out there in terms of payment and money systems that are there, this is one of the credible options that we have. And I guess that's my key message is let's keep everything as constructive as possible. with the knowledge that the world is actually looking at what we're doing. If we're going to be making history, the bigger this becomes, the more people are going to be scrutinizing that. So it's super important that we have a level of decorum and constructiveness in the communications. But absolutely, let's have vigorous debate. That's the beauty of democracy. But let's make sure that it's constructive.
Very good points, James. What do you think? What do you think about the points that they make, Scott?
I think they're good points. And I hate to just be ultra realistic here, but these points are going to be taken by individuals that are here to be productive with Dash. I think there's clearly some people that, regardless of what we say should be productive or not, their entire belief is just I hate to say it, there's some people that just really their passion is to troll individuals that are trying to be productive in the community.
It's interesting. We come across. We come across that. It's a very, very tough thing to run up an organization with and do the sorts of things that we do. You're flying jets. You've got a whole infrastructure team. You're pushing it, and you know what value you bring, Scott. And the same thing, we know what value we bring. We're actually doing the work. We're taking the action. We're putting our own money on the line. We're putting our really our passions and our careers, the whole thing through this. And it's just sometimes it feels good to an armchair critic to just sit there and try and just shoot it down any way they can, because it makes them feel a little uncomfortable. Some things that you say make them feel a little uncomfortable. And so I think, look, that's always going to be there. The trolls will always be there. The haters will be there. But it's for us to just sit there, do the good work, and frankly, don't pay them any attention. There's been another whole Dash forum thing set up where, frankly, it's just non-stop trolling under the guise of some free speech or something. I don't even engage with that. None of us do, because there's no point, right? I think the best thing to do is for us to not engage with the trolls and people who are armchair critics. I will engage with people who take action. I will engage with anyone who's got sensible conversation to have. I'll engage with anybody who has got, even if they're against the project we're doing, as long as they want to continue and have a professional conversation, I would be happy having public. I'm no problem with that. But posting memes of nonsense endlessly, swearing at people, lying, libel, I'm not interested in that at all. It's a good thing that this has moved away from Dash Nation, in my opinion. And I think that it's a step forward in professionalizing the kinds of conversations that we're having on the DAO.
Yeah, I noticed that some people choose to communicate simply via memes and via emojis. They don't contribute anything to the conversation. They just kind of slink away into the background. And these people, I quite frankly, I don't have respect for these people, because they're not coming to the table with any kind of meaningful dialogue and any kind of meaningful factual debate. And that's something that I believe strongly in. And that's my vision for Dash and the community in general. So that's where I'm coming from. I want to talk to people. I want to talk to people in a professional manner. I don't want to talk to people with emojis. I don't want to talk to people with memes. I want to talk to you. So if you want to talk to me, then talk to me. Let's work things out and move things forward. That's where I'm coming from.
There's something else on that, is that everybody knows who we are. We put our faces forward. I have our profile, our LinkedIn's. I've even it's hilarious, because actually on the other side, people have tried to dox me. It's clear who I am. I've got my face out there. Me and James and all of our team, we're totally public. We're totally open about who we are. We're not hiding behind some avatar, taking snipes. You know exactly what we think. You know who we are. That's the way we do things, But, that's just, there's always going to be people, given that people can hide behind things, given that people can snipe away with whatever nonsense they want, this is just part and parcel of what we've got. I'm just hoping that it does diminish, because it does actually hamper our ability to bring real professionals and influencers into this community and make Dash really shine above anything else.
Yeah, those are great points. What do you think about that, Scott?
Personally, I think some memes are fun, but hey, that's just kind of conflicting opinion, right?
Yeah, that's you're absolutely right. That you're here to speak your mind, Scott.
Yeah, I've been the victim of memes before that I literally said that. Now that's funny. Okay, I can't take that away. So I understand where you guys are going, and I understand what you're saying with that. I think some memes are funny, but a lot of my stuff does get isolated to the other side. You got some noise coming through. So,
Dude, I a few cartoons myself, right?
Yeah, exactly. We've done a few cartoons. I think
But it's in
Drako
the
hit it
context of
perfectly.
Facebook.
Draco hit it perfectly. We don't all have to agree. He did not like Dash Aerosports. Honestly, we don't even talk about Dash
True.
Aerosports anymore. We use Dash Aerosports as a place, almost like a conference center, our own meeting to go find new business. But, you know, he didn't like it. He wasn't a supporter of it, but I still knew that he was an expert in his field, and I reached out to him. I don't care if he likes my one project. You know, we can work together. And I have to get past my own personal feelings of who likes me or who doesn't like me, as long as I'm benefiting the network. You don't have to trust me. You don't have to support.
I'll be ready at
Dash
4:30,
Racer.
like I promised.
Oh, you're in trouble.
No,
you
I'm
don't
good.
have to trust me. You don't have to support Dash Racer. My plan is to provide so much value to the network that we get a yes vote and we continue doing our work. Other people can post memes. Memes about me are funny. I think they're funny. Go right ahead. But I'm here to work. I'm going to put my nose to the ground, and I'm going to keep sniffing out all the projects that accelerate Dash above all of our competitors. I have one goal, and that is for Dash to be successful.
And that's the Dash Nation way. You know, I really appreciate you guys coming on the show. So how do you think moving forward, we have a little bit of time left. How do you think moving forward is going to, the kind of like the methods we need to use to be successful in each of your opinions? I'll start with Scott. What do you think we need to do?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about this before. Right now, Dash is hunkered down because of the current market system, and we're being very reactive. As we all know, any time in the world that you've been reactive to something, you're going to lose. It's time for Dash to be proactive. If you think you're in a bull market, you're already in a bear market. If you think you're in a bear market, you're already in a bull market. In other words, we need to play where the ball is going, not to where it is right now. So I just have an overwhelming sense, not just Dash, the entire cryptocurrency market or industry ecosystem, whatever you want to call it, is all hunkered down. And Dash has the ability still to just keep driving forward and being proactive and not be reactionary to the current market events. The current, as I'm speaking right now, and this is recorded, will be days ago. We need to start moving forward and keep moving forward.
Okay, anything to add to that, gentlemen?
No, you know what? Me and Scott, I think we align very much on our ways of thinking with regards to that business. Let's just keep moving forwards. Like, you know, obviously like to see our proposal funded. If we don't, you know, like I say, we are committed just to get things done anyway. But I'd just certainly like to see, like, you know, us having the ability to do it the most optimal way. You know, we don't want to be reactive. We want to respond to you know what's going on in the market. When you respond, you go to where the ball is going, like Scott says. So I think that's we're agreeing on that philosophy, Scott. And yeah, may it carry us forward with Dash's future as well.
And talking about still executing, Dash Aerosports, both Drako and I are in this for more than just a business venture. We're trying to accomplish something. Dash Aerosports is still performing every single week. We're still executing, and we have not been funded since June. A lot of people don't know that. We haven't been funded since June. I'm actually, two of our sponsors have increased their exposure on the aircraft, as you can see in our photos. So we're balancing that. We have a conference call with another sponsorship proposal tomorrow morning that will help. But also on top of that, I've gone back to doing airline flying specifically to pay for my employees to work for Dash. So yes, I'm flying an Airbus again at 37,000 feet, not at 50 feet and 500 miles an hour, but my employees are getting paid, and the employees get paid before the boss gets paid is my rule.
Okay,
yep,
yeah,
that's exactly the same as us. Me and James, we're not getting paid until we get a pre-pilot out and the software in the hands of people, because obviously we haven't been funded a couple of months. So, yep, totally got you, Scott. You know, I see your commitment. It's incredible. And we really want to just keep moving forwards and get this thing done. So, yeah.
All right, let me wrap this up, guys. I want to say that thank you for watching, people. And if you watched the whole thing, good on you. You have a lot of information to consider and a lot of opinions to think about as well. I want to do a plug for our 3 proposals. Mine is the Dash Nation Dash Force organization for 2018 through to 2019. Please support that, and also do your best to do your research on Kuvacash. Support them based on what they've said here today or not. It's up to you. And also try to give Scott a little bit of support on his, which is the Dash Aerosports airplane wrap. All three of the links will be in the description below. So we have a little bit of time left. Can you guys give us some closing comments before I let you go?
Well, just real quick on my proposal, it's not for the airplane. It's for the Dash bus, which is 44 feet, and
Okay.
the 27-foot trailer, air-conditioned trailer that houses our virtual reality experience, where when you want to do the virtual reality experience, it's free. All you have to do is load the Dash wallet on your phone, Android or iPhone, and then we send you $5 worth of Dash, and then you send $5 worth of Dash back to us and buy your ride when you strap into an ejection seat in the trailer and fly virtual reality with us. So it is just the branding on the side of the bus, the entire wrap, but it is really just the storefront to the Dash experience of getting people to understand. The biggest thing for us is when they have their phone in their hand and we go, okay, I'm sending it to you right now, and it shows up right then and there, and it's less than 1.3 seconds guaranteed. You see this light turn on, and they start understanding, and it's no longer, in the term of the older folks at our air shows, funny money. It's starting to make sense why that is just like PayPal, a competitor of PayPal, Vimeo. The difference being that it's peer-to-peer, and you don't have a third party get in between you and either the person that you're paying back for a beer last night or the person that you're buying something from in their store.
Okay, Drako and James, any last words?
Yeah, just a few last words from me. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank all the people that have been supporting us over the last almost year now. We're at a really, really interesting point where we are in the position to actually launch a product that is comparable with the best products in the world. I'm extremely confident that what we have is by far a superior product to anything that is in the market currently, and is going to help to address the issues around being able to have a secure storage of value. So the key thing I'd like to say is we've come this far, and we now want to take the next steps to make sure that we actually get this into the hands of people. There are groups on WhatsApp, on Telegram, people that have formed their own groups just because of hearing about Kuvacash, and they're actually discussing this and asking questions about it. So there's already pent up interest in the product from people on the ground. So there's a lot of people that are looking forward to this and seeing it as finally, for the first time in the last almost 40 years, where they'll have a place where they've got funds where they've got the control of their funds, and they're not actually subject to policy that may actually harm them. So I'd just like to say, for those who haven't supported us, I think you can look at our track record over the past year. Everything that we said we'd deliver, we have delivered. We have been extremely transparent and also been able to stand up to very, very intense scrutiny. And we welcome you to actually engage with us. And if there's anything that people don't understand, please feel free to ask us. We're very open to engaging and answering any questions that come through from people. So I hope you can support us. And we are going to be moving forward with trying to make history and ensuring that we can actually land Dash as a money system.
Okay, Drako, quickly.
I just want to say real quick on that too, is talking about proposals and trying to get proposals going. I want to establish that if it was between Kuvacash and my bus being wrapped, I would rather see Kuvacash after meeting their team and seeing what they're able to do, and not only in Zim, but how it's portable outside of that. Kuvacash is truly a pivotal point for Dash and the development of Dash. So meeting the team, seeing the technology, not only that, but talking to several other teams that are in the same space and seeing how Kuvacash sets themselves apart. I fully support Kuvacash.
Perfect.
Thank
Okay,
you very
and
much
quick.
for saying that.
Thank you, Scott.
No, nothing else from me. Thank you very much, Scott, for saying that. Very much appreciated. And thank you very much, Carl, for having us on the show, letting us talk it out. And also for running Dash Nation, because I think it's the only place now really where we have real business conversations happening, and that you can see that that's
that's taking us to a better place, I feel. So
Thank you so much for saying so. It fills me with pride when I hear compliments like that, because that's my main goal from Dash Nation, is to have a professional, respectful, positive place to do business, both all on the Reddit, on the Dash forum, and on Dash Nation on Discord, which I want to be the premier place for communication and collaboration around Dash. So thank you so much, gentlemen, for being on the show. You've done a fantastic job. And I appreciate that you're there in a very noisy area. So I apologize to the viewers if the audio quality isn't the best, but the opinions and the information was well presented. So thank you guys for being on the show, and I'll try to get this out there as soon as possible.
Well, thanks for contributing, Tao, and thanks for creating Dash Nation. It's truly a spot that when I came to Dash as a newcomer, you were very welcoming, inviting, and the rules to your, at that time, the Slack channel, you know, it was a nice place to come. I know that I visited Dash Nation much more than I ever visited Facebook or Instagram, because it was somewhere where I could come with like-minded individuals and discuss the topic of making a decentralized Dash system successful.
I wish all the best to you, gentlemen, in your projects, and thank you for coming on. Have a good day.
All right, guys.
all right, good luck, Tal. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Well, that's it for Cash Alternative TV today. Hope you enjoyed this interview. Please like and subscribe and click the bell if you want to see more from me in Cash Alternative TV episodes. Remember, Dash is a digital alternative to cash, and is becoming more so every day. Bye for now.